And we're live. We're live. We're live. Woohoo! And I have Cathryn. You know what? I don't know how to say your last name. Bieg?
B. Yeah, you got it.
I should have just gone for it. Cathryn, I'm so glad to have you here. It's so cool. I met Cathryn recently. We became instant friends. And what I love about Cathryn, aside from her beautiful heart and her dedication to helping people have better results in their dating lives, is you're just such a solid person. Like you're just filled with wisdom, and dang, you got some chops, lady, when it comes to dating and helping people really get better results. So I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And like Junie said, it's really cool to speak to everyone here because Junie obviously attracts like our our age group, like doing something for women and men in midlife who need some help. And I know it's primarily women, but like we all need help at that stage in our lives. And like if you happen to be in the stage where you're dating, it seems even more complex. You need even more support. And like there's so much support out there. So I'm so happy to be here. Thanks.
Exactly. Why should we do this alone? People have been in the trenches. They've learned how to do things, what not to do. We are
Mhm.
going to dive into dating apps and how to do it much better. Before I we dive in and I tell you a little bit more about Cathryn, I just want to remind you, those that are watching and listening, to make sure you subscribe to the station here, this channel. I'm bringing in more guests on a regular basis for these live special pop-up presentations to give you more tools and strategies to have an extraordinary second half of life with or without a partner. Today is for you if you are truly wanting to date and get better results. And so you don't want to miss the upcoming presentations. And let's just dive in. I want to just let you know that Cathryn is a dating and relationship coach, and she's so passionate about helping accomplished women overcome the barriers to love. Because dang, I know there are a lot of women out there that are uber successful and so accomplished, and there's that one thing that's missing, and then they go out there and they're like, it's not working. There's all these scammers, these apps, online dating. It's exhausting. I don't want to do it. And one of the things that Cathryn specializes is in dating app education for all generations, even though we are honing in on the second half, and that is also her specialty as well. And one of the things I love that you've shared, Cathryn, is that you promise that people can, well, how did you put it? That people don't ever have to go on a bad date ever again.
Ever again. Yep.
I just want to like start there,
You
you
start in
know,
bold.
because not having a bad date ever again, that I'm sure everybody's like, I'm not listening to this. This is
Mhm.
bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're hearing all about scammers. We're hearing just all the craziness about online dating. And so, are you saying, since we're focusing on apps, are you
Mhm.
saying that you can actually navigate the dating apps and actually meet some great people?
Yes. Yes. And like this is the mentality I always give all of my clients. Cause like you said, all of my clients are successful in some way. Whether you're getting paid or promoted to do something, you're a success, right? In life of what society has taught us is a success. And so if you're successful and you have, your life together and you've had some amazing life experiences, you just want the same in a partner. And we go out there and we find that that's not always the case of what you're getting. And the hardest thing for me the easiest thing for me to show, just so you know, like I can show this within like weeks, but the hardest thing for people to wrap their head around is the role that they're playing in not getting quality dates because nobody taught us how to use dating apps. It doesn't matter what generation you're from, dating apps happen to us. And so if you're just starting your midlife journey, millennial, elder millennial, lower Gen X, you remember when dating apps started, right? You might have been dating during that time. If you are like post divorce and stuff, you're kind of feeling like you're dealing with something that's not of your generation, but it's not of
New
any generation.
territory. We've never
Yeah.
done this. The
Yes.
closest thing were the personals, and there was so much judgment about the personals.
Yes.
Most people don't even know what those are in the younger generations, and so
Yes.
it is new territory that we need to support these women and some men, because I have men and women on this channel, to
Yeah.
do better. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, is that I think that anyone in a Gen X boomer generation feels like they're doing something that's not of their generation, but it's not true. Everyone is not used to dating apps. And then our poor Gen Z and after, they've always had dating apps. They really have no education and any idea how to use it. It's all just assumed that we know how to use it.
Yeah.
And so when I teach you what to look for, how to show yourself authentically, because dating apps only work if you're showing your authentic self. That takes like a marketing degree.
Right there. Hold on right there.
Mm-hmm.
You get better results, optimal results, when you are you. That is the biggest thing that I see. The biggest mistake I see is people aren't spending time really, and this is of course my sweet spot, to really help them figure out who they are, so that they can step forward as them without changing themselves to fit in somebody else's box. We've done that. That's why the divorce rate is so high. And so to your point, how do you bring out your authentic self so that you can actually meet somebody that matches you?
Yes. So like in the seminar I teach, I go through specifically what that means. But to give all of your viewers just a little tidbit, just so you have something to go off of, I want you to leave today knowing that, oh, I can make some changes immediately.
Yeah.
I look at so many, and we'll focus on women, but it's the same for men. So I might say she a lot, but it's anybody. I see a lot of pictures that are almost identical. And when I say identical, it means you are posed, you might be wearing different outfits. It's a different background, but it shows the viewer on the other side, the amazing quality man, nothing about you and who you are and what your personality is. And so you have to go through, our generation above's like whole colloquialism of a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you're only giving like 5. And so what you want to do is use that breadth of 1,000 words and showcase yourself in moments that are candid, that show your lifestyle, that show your passions, that show your interests. And so in the seminar, we can share screens, and I can actually give feedback on real people's, and I have actual pictures of, here is a good but not great picture. Yeah. And here's a great example of what is this other picture telling me about you without having to say anything. And that's just part of it. It's the profile and the prompts. And so I think the internet is really good at giving us general advice, like don't be negative and don't be this. And, but they don't tell us how to authentically showcase ourselves in a way that matches what your world is really about.
Exactly.
So if anyone has any questions about that, throw them in.
Let's we're diving in. We're diving in here because I know you have this course, and we'll let people know about it later. And there's some hot friggin' tips that I know you're gonna share right now. And the first one is being authentic and painting a picture of all the colors of who you are, representing you. What is your billboard, so that when you're driving down the road and you see that billboard, that's the store you want to go to. That's the destination you want to head to. If you don't have that, who's gonna ping you? Who's gonna say, hey, if they don't really have a sense of who you are? And I'm curious, do you think that one of the biggest things I hear, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but take it however you want to, whatever direction you want to go. So many people are like scammers. Do you find that when somebody is authentic and has a really good set of pictures and a really well-written profile that really shares who they are, does that dissuade spammers or scammers, or are we kind of the same thing? Or is it just you need to have better skill set when it comes to how to spot them? What's your take on that?
So this is a really, really good question. And I would love to say that, oh yeah, scammers, if you seem authentic, they don't want to scam you. It is not true. Yeah. The thing about it is, and so here's the mindset of dating apps that I always tell everyone, but all my clients for sure, is you have to realize that dating apps are low-hanging fruit. So anybody who's scammer, playboy, cheaters, they're all going to be there because there's been no other opportunity to have a bunch of women in your pocket that you can just reach out to anytime you want, even if it's just for emotional validation or sexual validation, right? So if you are aware of the amount of people that app attracts, and you follow this method, which I don't know if I'll get into on this, we can talk about it more in just a minute, but like the way you communicate with your potential matches and the way you allow people to communicate with you makes black and white 1,000% clear if this is someone who's actually looking for a relationship or someone who's trying to scam you. And this goes for men and women, because women and men are having different experiences. Women will get a lot more of the like playboys, cheaters, and yes, there are financial scammers, things like that. But men will get a lot of actual bots and scammers. And so within a few sentences, I can teach you how to make sure if that person is a real authentic person or not.
Can you give us a couple of like, if it's like one of the things I've noticed is they say my dear, like, like people talk my dear,
So
yeah.
For me, it's about, it kind of follows the misinformation that's out there. It's like, we've been told that, don't just say, hey, say something authentic. So I think a lot of people are already doing that. Like say something authentic that's about their profile and see how they respond. If they respond in a way that makes you feel wary at all, or that they're even just, I think sometimes they're just boring. They'll just respond with one-word answers. So if they're responding with one-word answers, it's always a really, like, I shouldn't say bad sign, but even if they're not a scammer per se, they're just somebody who's cheating or has ill intentions. Like, there are many ways that you can see that when a man is showing up to you, that they're not willing to put in the effort and work. And so what I notice that we do, and we're conditioned as women to do, and we're fighting through in midlife, is not being that good passive girl anymore, and actually involving ourselves in the conversation to see what they bring out. And then when they don't bring it out, we kind of are patient with them. Well, maybe I should go back to the good girl. Be patient. Maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe he's not really good at dating either.
I'm going to totally own that. I used to do that so much, like giving them that second chance, or maybe they're just not good at this. But at the end of the day, if they're not investing time and energy to really respond and in a way that you can actually feel like you're having a connection, like bye-bye,
Yeah, for all the reasons. And the nice thing about dating apps is these are strangers. So you don't have to treat them with the same courtesy that you give your friends. That's just a fact. So if it's a stranger who showed up in your inbox and within a few sentences, you're not really sensing that they're putting in any type of reciprocal work, it's okay to just unmatch. At the most, you can say, thanks so much. I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep looking. Something cordial, right?
Yeah.
And then you just unmatch, because it's very similar to, you don't want to treat people like they're disposable, because we don't want to be treated that way. But it's similar to, let's say a good friend of yours invited you to a party where you will know anybody. You walk in, everyone is a stranger, but they obviously know your friend. So you're going to be cordial with them. You're going to make a bit of small talk. But there are people that you're going to move on very quickly and say, I got to go grab another drink and get out of there. And there are people that you're going to want to hang out with and maybe even build a connection with. This is the way you should think of dating apps when you're trying to communicate with people. And your intuition still is the same. If I'm talking to someone and they seem like they only want to talk networking, they only want to find out what I do for a living and what they can get out of me for that, I'm very uninterested in not only speaking to them, but I would never date that person if I found out they were single, right? So you feel that kind of like, there's legit financial scammers. If you feel that like pull, trust yourself and just book it, because they're a stranger. See what I mean? Like, it's a stranger.
Absolutely. And that works for scammers, and it works for people that might be of interest, but if they're not really showing up and having a good dialogue, that's not a fit. So one way to avoid scammers is see how they're writing and how they're interacting and what their questions are. And of course, as you mentioned, the intuition to like really feel into it. Does this feel like a fit? And if not, move on. Our time is too precious. I want to get to the whole get on a never have a bad date again.
Yes.
So give us a couple of tips right now on how to move from dating app. And I want to get to also some of the hot dating apps do's and don'ts, where to go, where not to go. So if you guys have any questions, post them below in the YouTube or on StreamYard, because we're tracking and we'll do our best to answer either now or after. But meanwhile, give us a few things on how to move from online dating to that date that will be great, because you said we'll never have a bad date again.
Yes. So this is different for men and women. So I'm going to speak to the women first, but men, you will understand once I tell the women what they need to look for, right? So it has a lot to do with the communication. So I do not subscribe. So I teach a lot about feminine, masculine polarity. I do not subscribe to feminine equals passive or submissive. That's not true. Feminine equals intuition, detail orientedness, consideration, relationship building. So if you bring all of that to your chats, you will see exactly who you should be going on a date with or not. And the easy thing for women is when you are reaching out, whether you're reaching out first, which I totally am an advocate for, you are the one who's the selector. You go out there and you find the man you want to talk to and you say something to him. I don't like this whole like wait till he likes you. You like,
Let
if we're
him
talking about
chase
Hinge.
me. I want to be
No.
taken.
So
Yeah,
there are
that ship
things,
sailed.
yes, like there are things like that ring true. I think when we're too, we've gone through a lot at this point in our life, so we can be very directional, like the masculine. We should wait for their direction. That doesn't mean submissive and it doesn't mean passive. So like basically when you reach out to that guy, you want to say something specific about their profile or about yourself, of like what caught your eye about them, more than their physical attributes. They're wearing a nice suit. It should be something that has to do with that deeper soul connection that you want. And it can still be lighthearted. It can be something they said that was funny, whatever. So say something substantial. I think we've all heard that advice. But their response is always going to determine what your next step is. So if their response like inspires you to go further, you want to then do what I call adding value. You want to keep adding value. If they say, "Oh, I'm glad you thought that was funny," you want to dwell there a little bit. Like, don't go straight to tell me more about you. So what are you doing today? None of that stuff. Sink into the conversation. Go into that feminine mode of just existing with this person and saying, what made you think to put that on your profile? Or, if you ask them about their degree, like maybe they put something about degree, how long did it take you to do that? What inspired you to get into that line of work? Really dig into like understanding and being curious about them, and keep doing that until they ask you out on a date. So I'll tell you why this works and why it guarantees quality dates. When you focus on just being a part of the conversation and adding value to what he's saying, you end up alerting a man to know that you're a specific type of woman and you're not the norm. Because what he gets a lot in his inbox are, "Hey, how are you?" Especially the attractive ones. "Wow, you're really handsome." Like, because we'll say bold stuff when we're on the internet, right? And we're semi-anonymous or whatever. Yeah. So he's heard it all before in a very bland, boring way. The minute you give substance and value, he knows you're different. He starts treating you like you're different. A man who is interested and serious about finding the woman for his life, especially at this point in his life, he will not hesitate to ask you out on a date because he knows you're rare. It will be as easy for him as picking a diamond up out of the street. It will be so easy. And we don't always allow our brains as women to know that that's the truth. It's that easy for him. So my rule is within 24 to 48 hours, if he has not asked you on a date, when you're having this kind of really valuable, supportive, relationship building banter, he's just not serious. Whether it's about you or in general, doesn't matter. Move on. That's the valuable thing to do. And so for men, my thing is, do not be afraid that when a woman is having banter with you back and forth and you're enjoying it, you ask her on that date. She will likely say yes. Every woman will tell you the bar is not that high. It's actually probably pretty low for a first date with drinks. And so I would say that like for women out there, everyone out there, a date on a dating app when you're meeting a stranger for the first time doesn't always have to be a date. And I don't condone that you ask for one as a woman. A date is really like the respectful thing for both of you is drinks, coffee, something that's a small time commitment, because we all know that if we meet up with that person and the vibe is just as good, we're going to extend the date. Hey, you know what? I was thinking about dinner. I was thinking about this. What are you doing right now?
Exactly.
We know we have that flexibility, right? We're adults. So This is why, like, I never, ever, like when I was dating, Because now I met my husband when I was 36. I'm 44 now. I'm pregnant, just so everyone knows. But basically, when I was dating, I never went on a bad date because the bar is curiosity. If you're curious, at least to go on a date with a guy, too excited, that's going to be a good date. And if it's not, it's 15 minutes of your time. So you're not actually on a terrible date ever again.
Beautiful. I want to jump in here for a few things that you shared. So
Yeah.
much good stuff here. So I love the getting curious because I think that really creates a rich connection and conversation,
Yeah.
certainly potentially. And you get to really have that dialogue. And so here, you're inviting the women to bring it into a deeper conversation. And why did you decide to put that in your profile and getting curious? And I'm hearing a lot of the women asking the men these rich questions, and they're potentially answering the questions. And then, ooh, she's a gem. Let's ask her out. Where is it where that should be different in that dialogue where you're actually getting energy back? Because so many women are like, I'm so sick of these guys that only talk about themselves.
Yep.
That they're just, yeah, they love talking about themselves. They love answering about themselves. Now they're going to ask you out because, wow, she's asking me all these questions. I'm feeling really good about myself. But at the same time, how do you avoid somebody who can't dance the dance with reciprocation?
So the thing is, it's kind of like the question you're asking doesn't have the answer you think it does, Junie.
Okay. You know what I'm thinking?
I think so. It's like, well, based on what you're saying, how do you avoid, right?
Well, how do you avoid the narcissist? How do you avoid
don't avoid them?
Intelligent? Yeah, totally.
So you don't avoid them. That's the answer, right? And so I think that's the thing is I know you're speaking on behalf of your audience.
Sure.
Because we all have that. It's like, we don't want to waste any more time. Many
of
us feel like we might have wasted.
Date scenario. I mean, I know that you're like, never a bad date. And yes, you have enough energy or something that, you can get out of Dodge if it's not the fit. And at the same time, it's like you're sitting in front of somebody. I've experienced this, and I've coached my own clients on how to undo this. But the last thing I want to do is be a prisoner on a date where somebody's like, brah, 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 and it's like,
so this is what I'm saying. Exactly. Like, this is what I'm saying is, that person's going to reveal themselves before you say yes to a date.
Okay.
So it's not that you're adding all this richness to a conversation. You're puffing him up and he goes, oh, I love being puffed up. Let's take this lady out. And then you say yes to him. No, it's that in the quality, when you're only bringing quality to the conversation, if what he's bringing to you is, let me talk about myself more. And now let me talk about myself more. Let me talk about myself more.
Yeah.
You know what? You're great. Let's ask you out on a date. I think your women's intuition is going to cue into that very quickly.
100%.
And
that's the preemptive. That's like, it's like have your big girl panties on or glasses on to be noticing that it's a one-way puff up.
Yes. And so I think that's where we have to be honest with ourselves, that we might have said yes to the date for other reasons. So we might have said yes to the date because, you know what? He seems really impressive. Maybe he was just nervous. I'm going to just say yes because it's only drinks, right? Yeah. No, you're not doing that anymore. And definitely my clients don't do that anymore. So all that inner dialogue that we have with ourselves that says, give this guy a chance. I never advocate for the give this guy a chance date. I don't care if it's the first date or the second date or the 10th date. Giving the guy a chance means you're not listening to something that you feel and are sensing inside yourself. And you're not being honest with yourself about what those feelings are that are coming out of you. Because once you get in touch with the feelings, you will get in touch with the real life black and white things that they may or may not be bringing to the table.
Yeah.
No,
totally.
So but that's a great question. And
I had to ask it.
I know. Well, it's a challenge I hear all the time where it's like, but what about this scenario? And I'm like, so here's the thing about that scenario.
And that's the thing is when you have certain tools in check, you're not going to end up out with somebody that's not a good fit. There's certain criteria and there's certain ways to navigate it. And I love that you support people around this. I mean, obviously I do some of this as well, but you are like the dating app expert. So dating app expert, what's the deal with the dating apps? Because people are always like, which one do I go on? I mean, there are the niche ones, there are the big database ones. There are people that are living in the middle of nowhere and they're like, there's nobody on my dating app. What are the best ones that you're recommending these days and why?
Yeah, this is another. So I love all your questions. Thank you. It's like they're the top questions that I get. So it's like you're reading everyone's mind, I feel like.
Mhm.
So my number one apps that I always recommend, really, it depends on the person, but I'd say generally are go on the top apps where everybody is. And right now, that's still Tinder and Hinge. Now, Tinder still has,
Seriously, Tinder?
oh yeah,
I've not heard
yeah,
that. That's so interesting. I mean, I'm
by
I'm
the
still hearing
numbers.
people saying Match
Yeah,
and Bumble. Those are the 2 that I'm
yes.
constantly hearing. So Tinder and Hinge. Interesting.
Yes. And so Bumble is changing things, and I'll tell you why, because it's very interesting because the writing's on the wall. So, for those of you who don't know, the background of dating apps is there used to be many dating apps owned by many different people. Now there are many dating apps owned by the same company. It's Match. And so all these different demographics are meant to be options for different lifestyles. And so you do have to consider your lifestyle. But I'd say most mainstream people, so Tinder, by the numbers, is still number one. Hinge might be outpacing them now, and they might be outpacing them in growth. But Hinge is the one that's being known for relationships. So if you're looking for hookups, get on Tinder. If you're looking for a relationship, get on Hinge. What you want to do is what the Little Mermaid told us. She wants to be where the people are. You got to be where the people are if you want to meet the best people. Because here's the truth. Remember I told you about low-hanging fruit and scammers? They are not just on Hinge, they're on all the apps. So what you do is when you go on Hinge, Bumble, and Match, which kind of all have similar demographics, you're just going to see the same guys over and over, whether they portray themselves that way or not. But if you're on there enough, you will notice it's the same people. So why even make this? This is not your full-time job, and you need to stop, right?
I'm
So
so glad
pick
that you
one.
mentioned that because that so many people are like, "It's a full-time job," and I'm so like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't keep up. It's like, how many apps are you on? Like hone
Yes.
in and do a good job on one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And incidentally, Junie, when somebody tells me that it feels like a full-time job and a burden, that's as a dating app coach, ding, 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 you're doing it wrong. And
Yeah.
I'll show you how to do it right. Like that's the number one indicator. And so I say Hinge is my first recommendation for that reason. And I also like if you have a certain lifestyle. So when I say that, if you're in a certain ethnic group and you only want to date people of that ethnic group, there are apps for you. If you like a certain body shape, there are apps for you. If you like a certain sexual lifestyle, there's an app for you. So I would say no more than 2.
Yeah, that's my
And then also,
recommendation too.
religion too.
Yeah.
Like there are many religious apps, JDate, Christian Mingle, all these things.
Yeah.
So like I would say 2 max,
Yep.
because in those niche groups, there will be different people because they like when you think about it from the perspective of a man who wants to hone in on what he wants, he's going to pick the most effective app for himself. So this is what I say is like the best, most eligible bachelors are going to be on the top app because that's when their friends are pushing them or they decide I want to get on this app. They're going to be on the top one. They're not going to they're not going to go on match.com necessarily as their
Yeah.
first choice. They're going to go on the popular one. Now I will
Great.
say this, some part of our age has to play in this. So I have clients that go up to like 74 years old, from as far as I know. That's what they've told me anyway. But they might be older. But basically, they're on Facebook dating and Match because the demographic of men there seems to be attracts that demographic. So you got to go where your demographic is. There's no hard stop. There are people of different ages on every single app. But I do find that like some of these like Facebook dating, like I already have it on my desktop. I go check my stocks every day. Like that's the guy, right? That's like, I check my stocks every day. Fine, I'll get on my Facebook dating. So he's not trying to do Hinge, but he's also not a of the moment kind of guy. He might be a little more old timey, but that may be what you want. That's what you're looking for. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind too.
Yeah. So good. Do you have access to the YouTube to see if there's any comments? I
Yeah,
can't
I
see
see
it
a
on my
hi.
computer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
just see a
see a
hi,
hi
Cathryn, from
too.
one of my followers.
Okay, that's on YouTube because I see that in the StreamYard. I just want to make sure we're in the right place. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see that on YouTube too. So you are getting the chat.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, everyone, I mean, if you have questions and you're watching this after, just please put the questions in. Cathryn and I will both be checking here. I'm sure
Yes.
some of these things are kind of poking you and you might be having some other questions bubbling up and we would love to support you. Cathryn, I know that you have a class coming up. You want to share about it?
Yeah, so I'm doing a dating app upgrade class. That's what I call it when it's like, let's give you the total like 360 view on from mindset, which is some of the stuff I've been talking about, to how you alter your dating app. Oh, I love it. We did get a question. I'll answer that in
Yeah.
just a minute.
Hi,
So,
Karen. Thank you.
hi, Karen. But basically, I'll take you over the next 4 weeks. So it starts next Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. And that can be alterable depending on everyone's availability. But once we get a collective together, if I have at least a couple people, I'll just go forward with the class. So basically, it will show you the things that I'm talking about, but in depth. And you'll have an opportunity to ask me questions live and really commiserate with everybody and get all those like
Commiserate.
what, yeah, it is. It's like, well, what about when this happens? Like, oh, that happened to me too. It's like, those are my favorite moments
Yeah.
because I hate the fact that like, because we've never been educated in this stuff, because everyone is having a similar experience, we think that's a normal or acceptable experience. And it's
Yeah.
not. Just
Mhm.
because we're all having similar experiences, it could be we're all using it the wrong way because none of us were taught to use it. So to illuminate that for all of my, clients or students, it's like so fun when you're together. It's like I really encourage you that like if you go to my Instagram page at Cathryn Bieg, so you can see the spelling of my name, it's just at Cathryn Bieg. You click the link in my bio, it's the first thing that comes up. And you can sign up for this course to learn exactly what I'm teaching you. Like you will leave the course with a brand new updated dating profile, clarity and confidence, and you will start going on quality dates. And I will teach you how you can guarantee that for yourself and with very little time. More dates does not equal more swiping or more whatever. It doesn't equal any of that. It will actually minimize your time on the app.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Such good, wise words. And I'm
Yeah.
sure your course is going to be amazing. And of course, now we're having a zillion questions.
I love
So
it.
we can go for 10 more minutes. So let's dive in and just FYI, everybody, we will put the link to the course after this ends, this live
Mhm.
stream ends. We'll put the link to the course as well as the link to my quiz. I just want to let you guys know that there's a quiz I have to discover your love avatar, which helps you see where you're at with relationship readiness, because you want to make sure you're in alignment with who you are now so that you really can maximize these tools that you're learning. All right, let's
Yeah.
see what we can do in 10 minutes because they are popping in. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to just
eHarmony. What do you
rapid
think?
fire these? eHarmony is great. I find that it's not as satisfying because you don't have control over who they match you with. So you could put in, I've heard this over and over again. You put in all your profile information. They're like, we don't have any matches for you. And you're like, great, I'm unmatchable. That's not true. That just has to do with their user base. So if you're going to do eHarmony, do Hinge where you have a little more control over things. I know we didn't talk about this, but in my course I do. In this day and age, because every app's trying to monetize. And if you're taking your love life seriously, I think that you should support the cause. And so buying the lowest premium package, so you have freedom to see new people, to message whoever you want, to send whatever likes you want, it's worth it. It's worth it. And like once you start going on great dates, you won't even care that you spent $20 a month.
Beautiful. Yeah, invest in it. If you're going to do this well. And remember, it's like going to a gym. You go to a gym and you work out once. If you don't get the results in a week, are you going to quit the gym? We know this is a journey, and finding your person is so important. So
Yeah.
invest in the energy and find an app that works for you and shift if you need to. You'll learn more about that with Cathryn. And one thing I'm just going to say about eHarmony is it depends on where you live, and it depends on where you live with any of these apps, but specifically eHarmony. I have found that if you're in a remote area, there's not going to be as many people. There's an investment of time and energy for eHarmony. You got to answer a lot of questions, and then it is limited, like Cathryn said. So go with what Cathryn's saying and learn more. All right, Leon, what if I have a chronic illness, am somewhat disabled? When, how to reveal? That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah. Leon, this is so good. And I think a lot of people, like, the funny thing is, like, the things that we think make us have to hide ourselves or be undateable. I think if you have a visible disability, if you're in some kind of device, just show it. That's who you are. If someone doesn't want to accept it, what you want is, I think when we go onto apps, we have the mentality of, I should appeal to as many people as possible. That's the opposite mentality. That's where we bring social media mentality into things. You need to almost have, like, the person who says, oh no, I don't want that. You don't want her either. Like, I'm assuming Leon is a male, but you don't want them either. Like, just let them go. And so if it's something that's not there, I don't condone, like, I don't recommend you, speaking about our traumas and our anxieties and whatever. But it really depends on how much it's an important part of your life to share.
Yeah.
And if you can visually be transparent about it. When you're talking to people, what I don't like is once you start chatting, never use your disability or your mental illness or anguish as let me warn you about this. You know what? Everyone has something. So you don't
Everyone,
have to,
let's just take a breath into that. Everyone has
everyone has
something,
something.
and I love that you're saying don't hide. I mean, that's my big thing is be you, be authentic, just like Cathryn was saying with your profile. Be
Yeah.
you. If it's a big thing that is part of your life, and if you're in a wheelchair, there should be a picture. I'm going to shoot on you. Let people see that. Don't walk in or roll in to a date, and that could be very shocking to somebody. But if it's just one of those things that will be revealed at some time, do it when it feels like it's worth they're worth your truth. They're worth
Yes.
sharing your
I
truth.
love, so beautifully said. It's like when it's part of you making a connection with that person, and it's not something that's like, let me stop you before you like me too much. That's like, that shows your mentality about having this as a lack. So I'll tell you transparently, like, I have a number of clients that are on the spectrum. Depending on where they land on that spectrum, I give them different recommendations. So some people are in the point where if they're not also dating someone on the spectrum, the relationship probably just wouldn't even work. So I say, put it on your profile. Hey, I'm on the spectrum. I hope you are too. And, we can have a great time, chasing trains and organizing things, or like whatever your thing is, right?
Yeah.
That just happens to be one of my clients. But if it's not apparent to anyone and it's something that you've been recently diagnosed with, you didn't even know you had it, like, let that just manifest itself. It's like revealing that you have been in a marriage previously. You don't just come out in the first chat before the first date and say, I just want to let you know I'm divorced. It comes off weird, right? It comes off like, oh, that's your issue. That's not
Yeah.
the other person's issue. So
Yeah.
I would say, like what Jeannie always says, the work that Jeannie does is like, deal with the part of you that's making you feel like that is something to hide or an inadequacy. And
Yeah.
then you will be able to naturally use it as part of your connection. So I hope that helps, Leon.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So well shared. Thanks for that question. And then Wendy B, we ladies can make your profile we can make your profile authentic, creative, showcasing who we are, but how do we avoid weeding through men's profiles when they don't say much? That is so true.
Yeah.
Some do, but more commonly they don't, and that is true. So what is your recommendation for that?
So I recommend that you remember that just because you are all here because you appreciate self-help and self-work, not everyone has the luxury of a dating coach. I think that will change in the future. I honestly think in the future, everyone will have a dating coach. It would almost be silly not to. It's almost like not going to university and expecting, to
Yeah.
get a white collar, high paying job, right? So basically, you reach out to whoever you want to reach out to, Wendy. The quality of your conversation will determine if there's a real beating heart on the other end. And if there isn't, you'll be like, oh, it makes sense that your profile wasn't that filled out. If there is, then you get to be that one woman who discovered that this person who maybe is not as committed because they don't have time and they're like, whatever their thing is, you will discover those things and find that you're actually meeting someone who's really, really quality. They just don't know how to make a dating app like all of us don't know how to.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's where you can get a little creative with yourself, which is if you do see somebody you're interested in and you're not really sure enough because they haven't given you enough information, that's where when you reach out to them, yes, as Cathryn said, please reach out because men love that and it works. Ask them a juicy question and see if you can pull out a really good response. Like, what are you most passionate about these days? Instead of, because we know there's so many people out there with, I'm looking for a relationship, or I like hiking and biking and traveling. And I'm kind of playing with this, but it's like over and over and over. It's like this list of
Mhm.
all the things they like, but you have no sense of who this person is. Ask a question that can pull it out and then see their response. And my thing, truly, what I recommend, unless you're like feeling like there's something about their picture, I need to reach out to them, is if they haven't filled out their profile or put any information in it, how invested are they? So
Yep.
you have to ask yourself that question because your time is precious. Your life is precious.
Mhm.
what do you want to put into it? Anything else you wanted to
Yeah.
add to that?
Yeah, that's why I like certain apps. So like you'll find that if you've never been on Hinge, go make a profile and you'll see that it's almost impossible to get that on Hinge because you must have a minimum of 6 pictures. And I think you must answer at least a couple prompts. Like they don't allow anyone to just have a profile like old Tinder and Match and OkCupid days or
Yeah.
where it's just like one picture and one line. They don't allow that anymore.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Cathryn. I
Thank
know this is just like
you.
a drop in the bucket. I know that's why you're offering this juicy course to really dive in so people can have really amazing profiles and know which pictures to use. So we will put the link for the course as soon as we end this live. Unless you have it real in front of you, you can put it in the post right now. You could just put it in the comments. And for those of you that are interested in taking the quiz to discover your love avatar, you can go to, and I'll just put that in here. And again, it'll be underneath, but it's midlife love out loud.com/quiz to get a sense of where you're at with relationship readiness. Whatever you do, just keep going, keep learning. And really, if you really want to get better traction and have better dates, take her course. I mean, seriously, this woman has the chops. That's why I have her on here. And I hope you enjoyed. Anything else you want to say, Cathryn, before we shift gears?
No, I had a great time. And like I put the link in the chat, but honestly, if you're watching this too, like later, just go to my Instagram page at Cathryn Bieg, click the link in my bio. It's the first thing. So I hope to see you guys
Let me
next
just
week.
put that in the chat here because I don't see your
Yeah.
thing. At Cathryn B,
Bieg.
just B. That's it.
Bieg, Bieg.
Oh, the whole thing. So at
Yep.
Cathryn Bieg, there we go. Because I don't
Yeah,
see
on
your link here.
Instagram.
So maybe it's someplace
Oh,
else.
there it is. Yeah. So like on Instagram, just go to Cathryn Bieg, my full name. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm so passionate about the audience that you have because obviously that's the point I am in my life. I definitely am on a different journey because, you know, I got great at dating because I dated for so long cumulatively. So I met my husband when I was 36. So I dated that whole time, apps the whole time. And so even though we had our first baby at 41, we're having our second right now, I'm going to be 45. Still like midlife hits you and there's so many things to contend with. And most of my clients are on this journey through like, I've had this full life and now what? Because I really want to actually meet the person who fulfills me. And I
Yeah.
just want to say like, you all deserve it. You all deserve it. And the work you're doing with Junie is so valuable. And finding the love that you need in your life is, you know, if that's a cherry on top, then that's great.
Beautiful. And may it be
Yeah.
the cherry on tops, meaning you have a full, wonderful, rich life. And then
Yeah.
somebody shows up or joins you because this is about you and having an amazing life. All right. That's our special presentation today. And may you continue to open up your hearts, call in love, and have awesome dates. Until the next one, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on some future lives that are coming up. Have an amazing day. Mwah.
Bye.